Hello, welcome to my incoherent rambling. I'm going to play a little bit, I'm going to chat a little bit, answer some questions, and maybe tell some stories, and maybe even play some presets that haven't quite made it to the channel yet. In fact, I was just noodling around with this one. Someone asked me on Reddit if I could, actually, they weren't asking me. They were asking if anyone could create Winds of Change by Scorpions, and I thought that was quite funny. Because I used to play that in a band. It's such a cheesy song, but it's a funny song. So I created this preset. And it's just got basically just whatever it is right now, the sort of main channel, I guess you could call it. And then it's got like a solo switch as well. So the main preset sounds with the neck pickup. And if you turn the volume down, oh. And then for the solo, I just basically put an overdrive pedal on it. Something like that, anyway. So that is actually uploaded to the cloud. That's called JGG Wind of Change. If you need to use that for something, which I'm sure somebody must find a use for it somewhere. I want to do like an AMA and get questions from people, but I haven't told anyone about this, so I've got no questions. So I asked Gemini AI to ask me questions instead. Some of the questions were a bit boring, so I've thrown in a couple of my own, and I wanted to start with this one, which is, have you ever felt unwelcome in a guitar store? And I thought this is probably something that a lot of people have felt, so I wanted to actually share my stories because it's not fair, and I hate the way that this happens, but like it seems to happen a lot. Sadly, this is a trend I've only experienced since I've been living in Sydney, but I'm sure this must have happened when I was younger as well. But when I was younger, I used to go into like guitar shops in Birmingham when I was living in England. And I used to go in as a teenager, like 13 years old, and just say, can I pick up like the gem, brand new gem or a brand new Ibanez JS off the rack and say, can I play that? And 9 times out of 10, they'd just be like, yeah, of course, just go and sit over there, play as long as you want. I have never felt that comfortable in Sydney in the shops here. So back years and years ago, I was in a shop called Alan's Music on Pitt Street. I'm not even sure if it's there anymore. And I was just doing what you do, going around playing a few guitars, just picking stuff up off the rack and trying it. And I wasn't particularly looking for anything to buy at that time, but I'd bought and sold guitars since I was like, 12. I've had loads of guitars. And so I'm always looking, and I'm always considering buying something else. But anyway, that particular day, no, I wasn't. I was just playing some guitars. And one of the guys walks up to me and says, are you actually going to buy anything today, or are you just going to play everything in the store? And bearing in mind, I'd picked up maybe 2 guitars at the time, so I thought it was pretty harsh. And he was pretty aggressive about it, and I said, no, I have no intention of buying anything today, and certainly not now that you've just been like that. So then he basically asked me to leave the shop. And what I should have done was spoken to a manager, but I just chose to leave because I thought, I can't believe this guy's so rude. And in fact, I was also subject to a bag search on the way out, which was like the final straw for me. So I thought, well, I'm never going back there again. And I did actually go back there again, but it was a very long time after that. But I felt really, really unwelcome, and I just thought, what is the point? Like, people go in there to try stuff. They're going to go there and play guitars, and then later on they might buy one. They're not going to. They might just come in and try a few, and then it might be months down the line that they buy a guitar. But you still might get that sale. So what's the point in kicking someone out? Like, it makes no sense whatsoever. Anyway, that drove me mad. But another experience that I've had as well was I was buying an amp. So I actually went in the store to try the amp, just a final test. It was, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, but it was a Gensben Black Pearl 30 combo amp, which is a really amazing amp actually, and not many people have had them, but it was a really great amp. And I walked in and said, I knew one of the guys that worked there through my old YouTube channel, which was called Guitar Noise, and he'd spoken to me heaps of times, and he knew what I was doing, and so he knew I had this guitar at the time because I bought this in 2010, I think, or 2009 maybe. Sir S4. I had a Sir Modern. I had a couple of other expensive guitars. That shouldn't even matter. But anyway, I went in and said, "Can I try this amp just one more time before I buy?" And he goes, "Yeah, just what guitar do you want to try?" And I just looked at the rack and said, "Oh, just that Les Paul will do." And it was a Les Paul with a quilted maple top. I didn't think anything of it. I just thought, well, that's just quite a nice looking Les Paul. And as I sat down to plug it in, the manager shouts across the whole store in front of other people, "Oh, of course you want to pick the most expensive guitar in the shop to play." And I said, like, I don't actually care. Like, I'll play any guitar. It really doesn't matter to me. So then the guy who I did know sort of turns around and says, "Well, be fair, mate. Like, he wants to try out this amp and he needs a decent guitar. He's got decent guitars himself." And he said, "Oh, but he hasn't got one as expensive as that, though." I was like, "Well, does it matter? Like, maybe I have, maybe I haven't. Like, it's completely irrelevant." But it's another case of this sort of weird thing that you get in guitar shops that I'm not sure you get in any other kind of shop. And it's not helpful. Like, I did end up still buying the amp because I really wanted it. But I just thought, well, why should I give you my custom? Like, if I could get that amp next door in a different shop, I probably would have just walked out and got it there instead because you're so rude. So yeah, if you do get this in a guitar shop, call them out. Like, I haven't had it for a long time, so I'm hoping that the culture's changed. But it's not on, and hopefully, especially if you're young and you've just started playing. It's so awful to experience something like this. But yeah, like I say, I've not experienced it for a long time. I've been into a few shops recently and they've been really friendly and really helpful. And these days they often have their own sort of room, which they didn't have back in the day when I was trying stuff out. I have to say that was one problem. You'd be sitting in the shop and making a lot of noise. If you go to, in Sydney now, like, I go to a couple of shops. There's one called Manny's in Alexandria. They have their own kind of like sound booth that you can go into to test amps and play guitars. And then where I bought my Schecter from and Guitar Factory Parramatta, they're the same. They have like a little room, couple of rooms that you can go in and sort of like isolated a little bit and soundproofed, and you can go in there and sort of play and not disturb other people, other customers. So maybe that's the new thing that stopped that problem. But anyway, that's my story. Ba ba ba. Here's another preset I've been messing around with. I set this up, I think, the day I got my Tonemaster Pro, and I just wanted to do the Flight of the Bumblebee. Sorry, no, Flight of the Wounded Bumblebee. Nuno Betancourt from Extreme, and it's just a simple like Marshall. Actually, it's a Marshall with a tube screamer and what do you call that? Tape echo. I'm using the tape echo. So it's a single repeat. I think I need to do a bit more practice on that. I haven't uploaded that to the cloud yet, but I think I might learn that properly and do a video on that and actually upload it to the cloud. Next question I'm going to pick randomly is, have you ever damaged a guitar? Yes. Yes, I have. And I'm going to show you I have damaged a guitar. It's not particularly bad, but I'll show you anyway. Let me just put this back on the rack. So I've had this guitar, this Patrick Eggle Berlin stage, since about 1994. And this one, considering how old it is and how long I've had it, it's actually in pretty good condition. But it's probably not going to come up on camera. I don't know if you can see there, what it kind of looks like a bit of a scrape. It's actually more of a dent. I mean, there are scratches and stuff on this guitar, like there's one down here, but that particular dent was because I had this in a gig bag, and back in the day when I had this, like in early 90s, I don't think gig bags were as good then. I've got gig bags as one in the background over here. That one there came with my Schecter came with that, and that's really nice, thick padded. I've had one for my Sir. I've had one since then as well, which I can't remember the brand. It'll come to me. Really nice, thick. You could take it on an airplane and have it like chucked in the hold, and it would still not get damaged. So, like, new gig bags are amazing, I think. But this particular one, it was really thin. There wasn't any padding, I don't think. And for some reason, I threw it up in the air to catch it by the neck, or I had it by the strap and wanted to catch it by the handle, something like that, and it just went smash straight from handheld sort of height up here, straight down onto concrete, which was not great. But hasn't really done much damage to it, so it still plays and everything. It's still all right. I mean, I've spent a lot of money getting this guitar set up properly. I had Charles Cillier in Sydney, who makes incredible guitars, and I've owned a couple of his guitars. He re-radiused the neck. I think it's had new frets. It's had a new nut, and that's probably it. It's very soft mahogany. I don't think when this guitar was made that they did. I don't know. They didn't do something right. The neck was like, it shifts about all over the place. It's not a great neck anyway, but yeah, that's it. That's probably the worst damage I've ever done to a guitar. Other than that, just chips and scratches and stuff. So who cares? They're just guitars. They're meant to be played. Now this one is definitely from Gemini. What's the most unusual place you've ever played guitar? Well, probably somewhere in it was either the Netherlands or Belgium, and I played at a jazz festival as part of a big band, which was bizarre. But I joined this big band just because a friend of mine was playing bass and said they need a guitar player. Why don't you do it? We get to go on tour. We get to go and stay, in different places in Holland and do a gig in Belgium. And I was living in England at the time, so I was like, yeah, that could be interesting. I was probably only about 17 years old or something, so I had to learn all these old jazz standards. I had to learn they played some really cheesy stuff. They played the theme from Fame. Like, I don't know how that got into a big band, but anyway. So we played a couple of places that were quite unusual. One was like a town square. It might have been Antwerp. I can't really remember where it was, but we were staying in Noordwijk, and then we played in Noordwijk in the plaza there, and then which is tiny, and then we went to this big jazz festival, and it was sponsored by Heineken. So if anyone knows of like an early 90s jazz festival in Europe, potentially Belgium, sponsored by Heineken, and they had a Heineken bus next to the stage, and the big band leader, I won't name him, but he said, whatever you do, you can drink as much as you want after, but just don't go on the bus beforehand. So we're all like 17. We're like, yeah, right, see you later. And then went and sat on the Heineken bus while we waited to go on stage. And then when I didn't realize what kind of a big deal this thing was. And then we went out on stage, and I looked out to a sea of people, the most people I've ever played to, all filled in this town square. And I don't know, man, there could have been 5,000, there could have been more, I have no idea. But needless to say, my volume was switched off for about the first 10 minutes while I tried to sober up enough to try and remember how to play again.
I was a little bit drunk.
So that was quite unusual. Other than that, really haven't played anywhere unusual. So sorry, Gemini. This isn't exactly how I expected this video to end. A massive thunderstorm came rolling through. I had to go and rescue my kids from school and abruptly stop recording. So apologies for that, but I figure, well, maybe this is a good place to stop the video, and I'll save the rest of the things that I wanted to talk about for the next one. So I hope you enjoyed this different type of content. If you did, please let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.